Hello and welcome to another live edition of Wrestling with Johners, and we're here to cover NXT TAKEOVER Vengeance Day. So yes, it took place on Valentine's Day, but all the love was thrown out the window during the 5 matches we saw last night, and it was a really, really good NXT TAKEOVER pay-per-view. Can't wait to take a deep dive into all the matches, some really good championship matches there, and some Dusty Cup final matches as well. But I want to introduce my guests. First of all, you've probably all seen them on their individual podcasts or possibly the Wrestling with Johners podcast before. First of all, Matt Bayliss from the Turnbuckle Arms and Pull Up a Seat pod. So how you doing, Matt?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Jonas. Thanks for having me on.
Jason from the Turnbuckle Arms as well. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And Grizz from multiple podcasts, but in particular the Turnbuckle Arms and the Turning Heel podcast. Grizz, great to have you back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me after the state I ended up in last time.
Yeah. So you haven't got your mimosas on tap this time. Staying on the water this time, are you? Or maybe something a little bit softer, I don't know. But good to see you all anyway. But first of all, before we get stuck into the matches, I want to encourage you all to drop questions, drop comments onto this live stream. You can do that just by adding in a comment at the bottom of your screen. And your questions or your comments will be read out, most of them as long as they're all kind of relatively PG friendly. But importantly, stay with the stream till the very end of this episode or to the back end of this episode, because I'll be announcing my next Wrestling with Johners interview guest. It's a really big name in the world of pro wrestling. Really can't wait to introduce this person. So this podcast is going to be going about an hour or so, but at the very end, stick with us because I will be making an announcement of who that guest will be. So first of all, guys, I'm gonna throw it to you individually. Kind of going into this card, it's a very, very stacked lineup. 5 really, really good matches with something at stake at the end of each of these matches. But like I said, we don't want to talk about the results. But Matt, first of all, was this a takeover that you were looking forward to? Were the matches kind of intriguing to you before the show last night?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially like the main event with Finn and Pete. Pete, I've seen sort of like from Birmingham a lot around like little halls around the Midlands and stuff. So seeing him main event and NXT TakeOver is pretty special. Then also like the Gargano Kushida match as well. That's something I was really looking forward to. Not seen those two go head to head before, and I know what they're both capable of. So that was something that was sort of like high on my my expectations.
And Jason, what about yourself? What were your matches that you were most looking forward to going into it?
I think the triple threat match, the women. I'm a big fan of Toni Storm, and I like that she's come over now to America at NXT, and so that was a good thing I was looking forward to. Other than that, I mean, yeah, the main event, but really, I think actually the women's one was what I've been, because so far I think Io Shirai had the most highlights so far. Actually, I think that's been the thing from my take from the different shows.
Yeah, definitely. And Grizz, what about yourself? I know you're a big fan of Shotzi Blackheart. You got Shotzi's t-shirt on there, but I guess you were looking forward to the match she was involved in. But tell us what your feelings were before going into last night's pay-per-view.
Pretty much every match on the card had potential to be amazing. And even considering like one of the matches featured Grizzled Young Veterans, which is it's not a team that I'm particularly big on, but even then, they pulled out something pretty special last night.
Yeah, indeed. And like I said, we're going to get stuck into the opening match. And it was one of the final matches of the Dusty Classic. And for the first year ever, they've had a women's Dusty Rose Tag Team Classic tournament. And it was a pretty good tournament and 2 very, very good teams in the final, as we saw last night. It was Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon and Grizz's favourite Shotzi Blackheart. So I remember the winner of this match will not only win the tournaments, the Dusty Cup Classic, but will also get a shot at the WWE Women's Tag Team title. So a lot on the line here. I think the current champions are Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, if I'm not mistaken. It goes to show how much main roster wrestling I watch nowadays. But still, regardless of who wins this NXT Dusty Classic match, it should be a hell of a championship match going forward. But this match was full throttle from the very, very beginning. You saw Shotzi get getting power bombed against the plexiglass barrier around the fans on the outside. There was an eclipse from Ember Moon, which should have won the match in all fairness, but the referee failed to count because Dakota Kai was still in the ring. There was also quite an awkward looking sliced bread from the top rope and a dive from Shotzi to the outside. I've got to say, Raquel Gonzalez, she's been impressing me more and more the more I see of her, and in particular in this match, I thought she was fantastic, completely badass. But there was a high crossbody, a dive onto Dakota Kai on the outside onto the floor. That looked pretty awesome. But after Ember Moon got dumped off the side of the rampway, it was Kai and Gonzalez who picked up the win thanks to a really sick high-angled choke slam from Gonzalez to become the first ever women's Dusty Cup winners after 17 minutes and 40 seconds. And they get a shot at the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. So, Matt, I thought it was a really good opener. It probably surpassed my expectations, if I'm honest with you. But what about yourself? Did you enjoy this one? And do you agree with the outcome? Do you agree with the winners? Give us your take on it, buddy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the right team won, or the team I hoped would win won. So, yeah, obviously they're pushing Raquel Gonzalez a lot at the moment, like with what she's been doing with Rhea Ripley previously, and she's on this like unbeaten run as well. And I think Dakota Kai is someone that I really like, so I think she's definitely a future NXT Women's Champion. I can see him, going the whole Shawn and Diesel route with it, whereas potentially down the line. But I don't mind that because I like both of them. The match itself was pretty good. It was a bit scrappy in places. Shotzi always seems to, nearly kill herself every time I watch her. The dive through the ropes, like in front of the announce desk, I was sure she was going to go place first onto like the corner of the announce desk with that. So, but yeah, it was good. I was happy with the outcome. It was a good back and forth match throughout as well. And I think they use like the tag team side of it and like use the strengths of each of the individuals in it quite well. And good result at the end. I wasn't sure which way they'd go because of it being heel champions. I thought they might have gone with Shotzi and Ember Moon because of it being like heel champions that they'd be going against. But I'm intrigued to see what they do going forwards as well. I think Raquel Gonzalez can quite easily go against like the size and strength of Nia Jax as well. If her hole's any better anyway. So.
I said this is a PG podcast, Matthew, but
Jason, a PG product.
Over to you, Jason. What did you think of this opener?
I wasn't aware that there was a tournament, so this was new to me. I didn't know. I'm sorry, my NXT weekly watching isn't that high. So with that, then I was like. And I'd seen Gonzalez, and I wasn't totally sold on what I've seen previously, and I find Blackheart quite annoying. So I was like, oh dear, I'm not sure what to make of this one. And I might go as far to say it might have been my favorite match of the night, actually. I was so surprised at how good it was and how many near falls there were. It felt like they'd been watching AEW or something because it was a good tag team wrestling match, I thought. And that spot where they had them in the electric chair or Doomsday Device style crossbody.
Yes.
I don't think I'd seen that before. Well, until later in the night, which I thought was a bad decision. But I thought that was really cool. And I thought the better team won, actually. I thought that was good. And it definitely, it was definitely high for me, actually. I was very surprised about that match.
Some really high praise there from Jason. Grizz, what did you think of this one? I'm guessing you're probably giving it 5 out of 5 stars just because of Shotzi's involvement, but 10 stars. But give us your thoughts on this one. And like I say, it went 17 minutes, 40 seconds. It flowed so well that it didn't seem to go that long, but give us your thoughts.
No, I thought this was awesome. And as conspicuous by my phone background and my choice of T-shirt for today, I'm actually going to fully agree with the rest of you guys and say that Raquel and Kai were kind of the team that had to win this year because they've been the established tag team as opposed to the kind of just thrown together team of Ember and Shotzi. They're doing quite well. They've got the Thunderbolts kind of on their face and they were wearing matching gear for this match. So you know, if they keep them as a tag team, maybe they can build them up. But Kai and Raquel, they were the established tag team, so they deserve to win. And as Matt says, I am totally intrigued to see Raquel go up against Nia Jax.
Yeah, absolutely. And Grizz, I've got to throw to you again. What did you think about some of the bumps and some of the dives from Shotzi? I mean, there was a couple there that were a little bit questionable, but as Matt said, you know, it wouldn't be a Shotzi match without her trying to kill herself.
She's got balls.
I suppose that says it all. That says it all. Continue to send us your comments. We've got one here that said best pay-per-view in a long time from start to finish. So some really, really high praise there. Somebody echoing Jason's sentiments about the opening match. High praise indeed. So keep your comments coming about the individual matches or about the show as a whole. We will read them out as best we can. A really, really solid opening. Like I say, 17 minutes, 40 seconds. It didn't seem to last that long. Some really good action. But I think they've got big plans for Raquel Gonzalez. I think that now that Rhea Ripley is officially on the main roster, I think that they could be looking at Gonzalez as their next kind of badass, possibly future women's championship contender. But then we go from the first ever women's Dusty Classic Cup tournament final to our first championship of the night for the North American Championship. Now, this was a match that kind of jumped off the page as soon as it was announced. Bit of a dream match in many people's estimations. Johnny Gargano, the North American champion, going into it against Kushida. Now, Kushida's had a bit of an up and down kind of story since he joined NXT, probably a couple of years ago now, I would say, or getting on for a couple of years. I think it was around about WrestleMania weekend 2019. But this is probably his most high-profile match he's had, and one of the first, if not the first, championship match he's had since being on NXT. I'm going to quickly jump to you, Matt. I mean, before we talk about the match, was this kind of a bit of a mouth-watering dream match for you as well? I think they did explain on commentary that it's possibly the first time that these two had fought each other.
Yeah, it was something that it would probably main event a lot of shows. Like both guys are unbelievably talented. You know, they're ring veterans, even though they're not particularly old in the bigger scale of things. They can both do amazing things. And I think my only concern going into it was obviously with the way and everything, that I thought that they could kind of spoil it a little bit by having any sort of like outside involvement. But Mr. Loomis sorted that for us before they started the match. So I think that definitely helped with the overall sort of like, with what happened in the match as well.
Yeah, and Jason, I know you said you're not a week-to-week follower of the Black and Gold brand NXT, but when you saw this match was announced, it must have kind of fascinated you or intrigued you as to how this match might play out between these two excellent wrestlers.
But because of Kushida's kind of in and out, I hadn't seen as much of his work on NXT. So, but obviously, Johnny Gargano is just amazing when it comes to takeovers. So, expectations were quite high, I'd say. Yeah.
And Grizz, I know that you follow a lot of Japanese wrestling. You've probably seen a lot of Kushida in the past. Was this a bit of a dream match for you too?
I've got to see Kushida live, actually, funnily enough. And then ran up to him after the show when me and my pal were standing outside and the New Japan guys were leaving. It was just like, fool.
And that restraining order still in place today, I understand.
Yeah, that's exactly why. I'm not allowed anywhere near NXT. So whenever we do a WrestleMania weekend, usually just have to go without me.
We wouldn't dream of it. But let's talk about some of the highlights then, because as Matt explained, Austin Theory got jumped backstage. And now I didn't catch it, but did you say it was Dexter Loomis that kidnapped him or took him away? Was that the case there?
Yeah, as they were making their way to the ring, he snuck up behind him with a tissue and must have whispered in his ear, "Does this smell like chloroform to you?" And then they disappeared off into the darkness.
WrestleMania 9 flashbacks all day long. But so obviously there was no The Way stable out to accompany Johnny Gargano like there usually is. So Candice and Indy Hartwell got sent backstage to look for Mr. Theory. But the match went to the outside early on in this one, and Kushida hooked on a hoverboard lock and then a chicken wing suplex on Gargano on the hard floor straight away. So that was some pretty good action to kick things off. There was an awesome Northern Light suplex from Kushida for a close near fall. Gargano countered with a brilliant twisting suplex, and it was a pretty impressive suplex. I don't think I've actually seen that type of suplex executed from the top turnbuckle before, and he followed that with a tornado DDT for another close near fall. Gargano and Kushida, they traded counters, they traded huge strikes and big moves. We even saw Kushida deliver a hoverboard lock from the top turnbuckle. Now, I know that we've seen him do that many times before, but it's always impressive when we see him do that. And I thought it was a great opportunity there and then to end the match and to crown a new champion. However, Gargano clotheslined Kushida neck first against the top rope. Then he hit a one final beat DDT onto the rampway over the top rope, and then back inside the ring. One final beat, hooks the leg. 1, 2, 3. Johnny Gargano, to some people, surprise, retains his championship, but a very, very, very good match. It does kind of make you wonder when they're going to push the button on Kushida, if ever. But it was a great match for both of them. Another match that went about 25 minutes, and it was full of action. Lots of really, really good psychology I found in this match as well. But Matt, thrown over to you. Like I say, going into it, the billing was a bit of a dream match. Did it live up to the billing? Did it live up to the hype?
Yeah, every last possible bit of it did. It was a 25-minute match. It didn't feel like that at all. It flowed really well. It was full of like technical wrestling. Then there's also like the big moves as well. So both guys were trading blows. A lot of the stuff where they were like swapping out submissions and everything was absolutely fantastic. So I actually loved it. I would have liked Kushida to win. I was talking to Dan Towers, Nick Towers even. Sorry, I've got my Towers and my Towers mixed up. So it's. We were saying before the match that it's the time to pull the trigger on Kushida, and basically what I said was that Gargano doesn't really need a title to do what he does. They could put him into like any other kind of setup, any other kind of feud. He doesn't really need the title. Whereas I think strapping it to Kushida would give him that elevation point to go on. But the advantage of it of Gargano retaining is that hopefully we get a rematch, whether it's on an NXT or at WrestleMania or whenever they choose to do it. Hopefully there'll be they could do an Iron Man match, they could do a submissions match, they could do absolutely anything. And I think those guys would just like pull it out of the bag and make it a 5-star classic straight away.
Yeah, I wonder if because they did have a few spots on the outside, both early doors and towards the end of the match, whether they're considering maybe a street fight or a Falls Count Anywhere. But over to you, Jason. Did you enjoy this one?
Yes, I did. But I'm going to be a bit mardy here and say,
Go ahead.
I put my Bill Watts hat on. That's what goes on here at this point, and he wouldn't have the heel out wrestle the babyface, and I don't think it worked. I didn't like the idea that Gargano didn't win by any shenanigans. He was just the better wrestler, because I don't think why would you have a rematch with Kushida? Sorry, I'm saying his name right, but I don't know why you'd do the rematch. I know it'd be a good match, but he shouldn't have beat him clean, I don't think, because that didn't really give him, because he needs way more momentum than Gargano does. He could lose and you wouldn't even give it a thought. He's lost a lot, regained belts, lost them, been champ and such, and he's still got
doesn't hurt.
Yeah, he's still got a lot of momentum, hasn't he? Where I don't think I think Kushida could have done it with a lot better with that win, and so that's where I was kind of like, it was a good match, and that suplex was impressive. I thought the same thing actually, and also the way they used the rampway, I thought was very clever as well. That was very good use of that. So it was a great match. It was just more about, I don't think it helped. The outcome definitely was something I thought, I'm not sure. It should have either won by shenanigans or it should have been the other way around. That would have been my take.
This is it, because
it was a good match.
It's leading to a rematch. I think we can all tell that it's leading to a rematch, but rematches are normally kind of initiated because of outside interference or shenanigans, and we didn't get that here. It was a clean win, so it'd be interesting to see which way they go. But I can see a rematch possibly over WrestleMania weekend or getting closer to that event. But Grizz, give us your take on this one, buddy.
Well, in a kind of way, I actually kind of agree with Jason. Not more so like that Gargano winning the way he did was a bad thing, because he is still Johnny Takeover at the end of the day, and he can essentially still get stuff done. Had to censor myself there. Get stuff done when it comes down to it. But I do agree with the way that Gargano beating Kushida clean. It like, if there is going to be a rematch, there needs to be a progression to it. You know, like Gargano coming out and saying something like, "Oh, right, well, if you want another title match, you need to start at the bottom and work your way up again." Then, so the next couple of weeks on TV is going to be Kushida having to try and go through people to be allowed to get another shot. I don't think just handing him another shot would be the best thing.
No.
Yeah, I agree with all your sentiments there, and I don't know. I've been a little bit disappointed with Kushida's run in NXT, to be honest with you, and I felt that they should have really pushed the button on him a lot sooner. And I really felt that kind of hoverboard lock that he executed off of the top rope. I love seeing that every single time. That was the ideal opportunity if ever they were going to do it. But let's hope they build a decent story and keep us all kind of wanting more from these two. Hopefully, we'll get a decent rematch down the line. But let's talk about the next match, and it was the second Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tournament Final. Yes, I said it without messing up the words that time. The Grizzled Young Veterans taking on MSK for the men's final. Now, if you remember, Grizzled Young Veterans were finalists in last year's tournament when they lost to, was it the Broserweights? Yep. Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. And they had some fun kind of little histrionics with the tournament getting onto Triple H's plane and this, that, and the other. That was quite fun. But that's back in the good old days when you had Riddle and a babyface Pete Dunne on NXT. But good to see the Grizzled Young Veterans getting to a final for the second year running. We had another excellent promo from Zach Gibson as they were making their entrance, telling MSK to stick their green pajamas up their arse. Yes, I know I said this was a PG podcast, but I found that particularly amusing. And Zach Gibson, not necessarily underrated, but he doesn't always get mentioned in the same sentence as, say, the Paul Heymans of this world when it comes to promos. He's definitely up there with the best. There's some nice high-flying offense from MSK early on, but Zach Gibson and James Drake took matters back into their own hands with some solid tag team action, which GYV are specialists at. There was also a stunning dive over the corner post from Wesley to drop both Drake and Gibson, and a close near fall from a double kind of somersault kick, a double Pele kick, you could say. We get an awesome Doomsday device. Now, we saw a version of a Doomsday device with a crossbody in the women's tag match to open the show, but here we saw GYV hit an awesome Doomsday device through the ropes, taking, I think it was Wesley, down to the ground on the outside. That was a pretty stunning moment, one of the highlights of the match. Then after Wesley recovers from the earlier Doomsday device, he comes back to connect with a corkscrew cutter from the middle turnbuckle. And it was indeed MSK who not only won the match, they earned themselves a shot to the NXT Tag Team titles as the winners of the 2021 Dusty Classic tournament. So I thought this was a really good match. I must admit, when MSK came onto the scene a few weeks back, didn't really think too much of them, but obviously NXT or the people behind the scenes have a lot of grand plans for MSK in the future. This was a great match. This was one of the matches that kind of built and built and built. And I thought that the resilience of MSK and kind of the GYV doing what they do best in the ring. And there were so many close near falls on this one, but love this tag match. But Matt, I'm going to throw it to you. I know you're a big fan of Grizzled Young Veterans, but they lose out 2 years on the trot. But give us your thoughts on this one and the winners.
Yeah, I enjoyed this match as well. I think, like you say, like the pace it went on was really good, but it did kind of just like accelerate, and pick up as it went through, which is which is what it should do. You know, there wasn't too many like lulls in the activity. It was really back and forth, some like great moves in there. I think with MSK, I think they've been put. I think there's quite a big investment to bring them over from Impact. So I think they've kind of like, you know, put their money where their mouth is and pushed them straight away. You know, so I'm interested to see what they can do, you know, and how they'll use them going forwards. Grizzled young veterans, even.
It's a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah, I struggle once or twice.
You know, it's a shame for them to miss out again. But I think because obviously what's happened in the last 12 months, yeah, so obviously they weren't in the US, so they weren't on TV for a long period of time. They've only recently come back, so you know, it is a good way to kind of like reintroduce them and reintegrate them and put them back into their spot. You know, the tag division in NXT is pretty good. You know, there's lots of teams, so there's lots of different things they can do. I think their time will come. I think there's enough faith in them that, you know, they will get those championships at some point. You know, whether it's through nefarious means or whether they just wait for their opportunity. You know, I think their time will come very soon.
I see what you did there. Jason, I don't know if MSK were particularly new to you. They were to me. I'm not the biggest or greatest follower of Impact Wrestling, if I'm honest. GYV, I've seen wrestle in the flesh quite a few times. Really enjoy their work. But give us your thoughts on this Dusty Cup Classic final.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. Out of the two tag teams, I thought it was that the other tag team match was better. But I thought it was a good match. I mean, I'm not familiar with MSK, and no, I didn't. Until Matt just said there, I didn't know they'd been on Impact either, so that was a new one to me. So I was like, oh, okay then. I mean, I thought it was good. I thought the Grizzled Young Vets should have gone over actually. So that was where I would have probably sided with them. I thought they were a better tag team. The other ones didn't seem instant. I didn't know that they had history as a tag team. A cool move set. I mean, he did the trying to look at his name. Wesley did the spinal tap, the AJ Styles old spinning corkscrew move. So they've got some really cool moves they do. It's just, yeah, as a tag team, I thought I'd have gone with the Grizzled Young Vets at this one. So, but that Doomsday device, I thought flipping heck, he was close to decapitating him at that point. But that was it looked really good. I just want to book two very similar things in tag team matches happening in the same area. I thought that was really someone should have maybe rethought that one, but it was a better one of the two. Definitely, it looked awesome. That did.
Yeah, and I agree with Matt that GYV, Drake and Gibson, that they have to have their day in the sun soon. They've got to be involved in the title picture going forward. But Grizz, I'm going to hand over to you. Give us your thoughts on this one.
Well, being like Matt, I had seen MSK before when they were the Rascals in Impact. And so I was obviously quite familiar with them when they showed up. So I was actually on the complete opposite side and was much happier to see them win. Partly because obviously brand new tag team, and them going straight through the final. I was like, oh, well, here we go, especially with the whole storyline of Grizzled Young Vets losing last year, and going up against the brand new tag team. Is like, well, they would probably get MSK at the final, make them look good, and then have them lose. So them winning was actually a massive shock, to be honest.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Grizzled Young Veterans were in the final, to kind of help the flow of the match. You've got two contrasting styles and to make MSK look good, which they did. But some of their moves from Wesley, I think he's definitely a star of the future. Very reminiscent, if you don't mind me saying, of the Street Profits. I think that, very reminiscent. Two very similar teams there. Maybe at Private Party in AEW, these young kind of dynamic high-flying teams seem to be very popular at the moment. But we're into our second to last match already, guys, and Io Shirai defended her NXT Women's Championship last night in a triple threat against Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez. Now, many wrestlers, certainly ones that I've spoken to, may say that triple threat matches are quite hard to execute, but I thought that they definitely delivered in this one. Matt, I'm going to quickly hand over to you before breaking down the match. Was this a match that you were looking forward to? Are you a fan of any of these three? What was your expectations?
I'm a big fan of Io Shirai, and I hope that she holds the title for a long time going forwards. Yeah, I mean, triple threats can either be amazing or they can be terrible. It depends how they're booked, how well they're put together, how well things flow. To be honest, I think that they did most things quite well. There was a couple of maybe missteps, including, I think, on the finish. I need to watch it again, but I think there was a bit of a slight timing issue with that, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, I was quite excited about it. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about it being Tony time and like that she's going to get the title, but so obviously there was a chance that the title could change hands in the match as well.
Yeah, and Jason, what were your expectations going into this one? Looks like quite a big, important championship match, and you've got Io Shirai that's been the champion for well over 6 months now.
And I thought it was good because Mercedes was managed by a bloke at one point, wasn't she? Who was the chap?
Stone.
Sorry?
Robert Stone.
Robert Stone. So sacking him off was a good idea because it made no sense that they were together. And now, she looks like a badass, she does. I don't know if you know UFC. She reminds me of Cyborg in UFC. And so I think she's got very legit kind of qualities. And so I actually thought she might take the belt. I thought they might have done that. Even though I'm a big fan of Toni Storm, I still wasn't really sure where they'd go. So actually, I thought it was going to be quite a good match. I was looking forward to it.
And Chris, your expectations going into this one?
Oh yeah, well, definitely was quite excited considering it's three very high quality women going into this, and like I was kind of agreeing with Matt there. There was like kind of a weird sort of thing on the finish. But also I kind of thought the way that they took Mercedes Martinez out of Retribution to then put her back into NXT, I thought that maybe they were just going to go straight into giving her the belt and her kind of going on a run with it.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed this triple threat match, and I'll be honest, I kind of went in with lowish expectations, so I was pleasantly surprised. But there was one moment when Toni Storm was setting up a move on the announce table, and she was clearing off all the waters and the papers, and the table just collapsed. I don't know about I am the table. That table was having a bit of an off day. But then we saw Io Shirai come flying off of a lighting gantry. She must have been a good 10 or 15 feet up. And she wasn't caught by both wrestlers. She kind of hit Toni Storm square in the kind of upper body there. But Toni recovered nicely. Martinez connected with a fisherman buster for a close near fall. Toni Storm managed to hit a Storm Zero finisher, but only for a 2 count. But after Toni Storm connected with a flying headbutt, Io disrupted the count with a trademark moonsault for the 1, 2, 3, and to retain her NXT Women's Championship. So I thought it was a great match. It flowed really well. It was full of action, lots of close near falls and high spots, in my opinion. Pretty damn good. It didn't go too long. Like I said, all three women looked really, really strong, and I think Io Shirai walked away as the worthy NXT Women's Champion, retaining. Now, I think it was the NXT Takeover in Your House, wasn't it, back last summer when she won it originally? So she's been champion for a good fair while now. But Matt, did you enjoy this triple threat?
Yeah, I like the match. Gotta feel sorry for the table. To be fair, I think if Toni came and brushed past me, I'd probably collapse to the floor as well. So I've got mutual respect for the table. I mean, obviously they would have had to kind of think on their feet then as to what was happening, and to think at the time it was like when Io was climbing the scaffold as well. So whether they were going to do something with the table and that. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, so I think everyone got their moves in. Everyone kind of had opportunity to shine. I was interested with Toni Storm as well. I think there's at least a couple of moves that she did that you wouldn't normally see her do as well. So
yeah, I was going to say bit of a she turned things up a little bit of innovation there from Toni.
Yeah, so I think that, maybe that's the way that they're going to build her and change her slightly and repackage her going forward. So she's also, Toni Storm's probably got one of the best sort of entrance themes at the moment as well. It's sort of like, obviously it's just sitting there watching by myself, but it always gets a bit of a pop whenever she comes out. And I think, that's always a good sign. Someone's well packaged and everything. So yeah, so hopefully there will be hopefully there'll be a change going forward, just because obviously a change is always good. But at the same time, quite happy to see EO retaining and coming out with a title.
Jason, give us your thoughts on this women's championship match from last night.
Yeah, it was good. I liked there was like the double submission at the same time. One had, I think Toni Storm was at the bottom, and then there was a Io Shirai had her, and then after that,
Crossface wasn't there, and then the Dragon Sleeper, I think.
Yeah, it looked really cool. That did. I was impressed with that.
Yes.
I think I would have liked more. It would have helped Toni Storm and Mercedes if they'd have been interrupted in their pinning of the other people, and actually looked like that they could have won the match, because actually Toni and Mercedes kicked out of each other's finishes. So I was like, oh, okay, that probably doesn't help you in the bigger picture. And even because I thought they needed to probably shine a little bit more. But I mean, it was a good match. I was impressed, and I don't see Io Shirai losing the title anytime soon, actually, really, because I think she's just very good, and I think she might keep it for a good while, I think.
And Grizz, hand it over to you, Grizz. Give us your thoughts on the match, but and just taking it one step further, who do you think could be a really good challenger, possible challenger to take EO's championship away from her eventually?
Well, thanks for asking that, because I was
not to put you on the spot or anything.
No, I was going to say thanks for asking that, because I do have an idea, but I was going to get to that. But nice way to segue in there. I thought the match was pretty good, but I'm actually surprised it was as short as it was. That was quite surprising to me. But again, like kind of as we're all saying, like Io Shirai is arguably one of the best women's champions that probably NXT's had recently, except Kairi. Because Kairi. But what I'm kind of thinking is, because Toni Storm wasn't pinned in this match, she's probably going to get another one-on-one match. But again, I do kind of see Io maybe getting through her. But the person I think that could take the title off her will be Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah, they are definitely building her up to bigger things. So you think that? I'm of the same mindset. I think Toni Storm is possibly due a one-on-one championship match. But like I say, we're getting ever closer to WrestleMania weekend. I'm assuming they'll do a takeover over WrestleMania weekend, and possibly Raquel Gonzalez could be that big challenger over WrestleMania weekend. So some really, really interesting thoughts, but a very, very good match. It surpassed my expectations. Io, a worthy champion, and she's held the belt for good 6 or 7 months now. Looks like they're going to keep it on her for a good while longer. But before the main event, we had a little bit of a surprise contract signing. A new signee to NXT, the black and gold brand over in the States. The former Eli Drake from Impact Wrestling, now known as LA Knight. And he cut a bit of a promo on the pre-show, which we got glimpses of during the main show last night. But Matt... Eli Drake in NXT, I don't think he was on anybody's kind of wish list of new signees, but I know that he was kind of on a lot of people's lips a few years back when he was kind of really, really doing the rounds, and I think he was the Impact World Champion at one point. But was it a surprise to you, and do you think he's a good fit?
Yeah, potentially. As with anyone, it depends on what they do with him and if he takes the opportunity. I remember seeing quite a bit of him on Impact, and he was pretty good. He's got a really good promo in him as well, which I think he showed in the pre-show as well. Loads of people are losing their shit online about his new name, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't like Finn Balor when he got named Finn Balor. But he's still Prince Devitt. But it's it is what it is. And obviously there's already a Drake on the cards with Drake Maverick as well. So it makes sense to potentially change his name. And then based on the what little we saw last night, I think the name kind of suits him. He's going to be big and brash, and he's going to be like kind of like Mr. Hollywood as well. So, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him as well. And it's someone else who's trying to interject themselves into title pictures straight away as well. You know, they're not short of talent in NXT, so you know, they're going to have to go some to keep everyone happy, to keep everyone relevant as well.
Yeah, and Jason, I mean, were you familiar with Eli Drake from his Impact days? And from what you saw of him last night, do you think he could be a success on the Black and Gold brand?
Never seen him wrestle. The name definitely rung a bell. I knew he was an Impact wrestler, but never seen him wrestle. But that promo I thought was brilliant. So, I mean, if there's more like that, I was like, well, I mean, this guy definitely got some skill, hasn't he? And I mean, it was, I was even still remember it. You guys are playing cards while I'm rolling dice or whatever it was, and it was very catchy. So yeah, I was impressed with that. And so yeah, I've got, I think, okay. I mean, he is known as one name over another, but I don't know. But I'm not an Impact watcher, so I might be more upsetting people. But I thought it was fine. His new name is, so there we go.
Yeah, I haven't got a problem with the name, and he's playing his heel character very well, because you know, as good as his promo was, I found him quite annoying as a heel. So I think he's definitely achieving there. But Grizz, LA Knight, is he kind of somebody that you'll be looking forward to seeing in the future?
Well, let me talk to you. Yeah, big fan of LA Knight, or Eli Drake, as he used to be. Former Impact World Champion, as you say, and NWA Tag Team Champion with Jim Storm. That was where he kind of was between his stints in Impact and WWE. And one of the lines that wasn't brought up, so I'm going to bring this one up as I consult my notes, is he walks in and turns around to Wade Barrett, who he worked with in NWA. So that was kind of a nice little thing to see the two of them back on screen together. So he turns around to him and says, "Oh, even if you even look at me the wrong way, I'll pull you out of retirement just to put you back into it."
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. But I think we're ready, guys, to talk about the main events. What a main event it was. And this was another match that went 25 minutes. The Prince versus the Bruiserweight. And this match had a true kind of main event feel going into it. It certainly felt special before the bell rang. Like I say, it went 25 minutes. Dunn spent, you know, a fair bit of time going after Balor's previously injured left arm, and then his wrist, and then his fingers. So Dunn obviously had his kind of game plan set out there. There was a lot of groundwork and submissions within the first 10 minutes of the match before the pace picked up. Balor was taking advantage of an injury that Dunn had kind of gotten to his left knee. And there was some great exchanges between these two, including Pete Dunn countering a coup de grace into a triangle, which I thought was very impressive, very well done, which caused Balor to seemingly pass out, but he still managed to get his foot draped over the bottom rope. So the referee couldn't end the match there. We get a finger snap and a bitter end from Pete Dunne for a 2 count. Balor turned a power bomb into a DDT, and then he hit a sling blade. There was some more awesome back and forth action between these two before Balor connected with a shotgun drop kick, a coup de grace, and just to kind of put the final nail in the coffin, a 1916 before hooking the leg to retain the NXT championship. So I know, like Matt, I'm a huge Pete Dunne fan. Love everything about it. Love the whole package. But I was gutted that he didn't win. But still being featured in the main event of an NXT pay-per-view is very, very special. And obviously being featured in such a high-profile match bodes well for Pete Dunne in the future. Yeah, I thought the final 15 minutes of this match was absolutely awesome. The whole match told a great story. Both guys kind of picking apart and going after their opponent's, injured arm or leg and telling a great story. But a really, really fun match. Matt, I'm going to hand it over to you. Give us your thoughts on this main event.
Well, I mean, this main event is why I stayed up till 2:30 in the morning to watch it. I did think about, I could just catch it in the morning, like try and get a decent night's sleep. But at the same time, I didn't want to wake up and have missed up watching Pete win the title live. So slightly gutted that I stayed awake and he didn't win it. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have his opportunities again. It's a match I've looked forward to. It's quite good, obviously, in the build up to it, and even on the commentary, like Stu Barrett was putting him over. That that they never faced up in the UK, they never faced up in Japan, and up until then they'd not faced up in the US as well. He made a comment about Finn Balor moves house every time that Pete moves into a new territory. So it's there's a lot of build up to it, and it really didn't disappoint. It had some like vicious, like hard hitting. It had tons of technical wrestling in it as well, which was top draw, which you'd expect from both of them as well. I absolutely loved it. It could have gone either way several times. So I'm gutted that Pete didn't win, but it was a fantastic match to round off like a really good takeover show.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that's quite evident with NXT in particular is that it likes to keep the belts on the champions for a decent length of time. I mean, Balor won the championship back last year, Io Shirai last summer. They do Johnny Gargano, like I say, he's had the belt for quite a few months now, so they don't kind of switch and change the championships like a hot potato. But Jason, I'm sure you loved it as well, but give us your thoughts on the main event.
It was good. I really like how the Pete Dunne cracking the fingers and everything like that every time makes me wince every time. It's really good. The bit where he passed out, that was the only bit I was like, ooh, I've seen in the past in other matches where you've stopped matches at that point and given the belt to the other person. So that was the only bit I wish they hadn't played with that a little bit. But no, I thought it was really good. And I was watching it, and unlike Matt, I wasn't totally convinced that the change was going to happen. But when he hit the low blow and then did his kind of not gut wrench. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the move of the
threat.
When he went to do his move and he ended him a low blow, I thought he's going to do this. He's going to do this, and I literally jumped out of my seat at that point, and then I was really deflated when he didn't. But no, it was. And that's the point, isn't it? You're meant to buy into this, and it was a good match, and it was. I think they could have gone. They could have easily gone another 20 minutes. That would have been and that's what I wanted. So I looked at the clock, and so when I checked the time, I was like, oh, okay, we haven't got as long on this match as I thought we could, because any time that they were in a UK kind of NXT main event, that you would expect about a 40 kind of mark, and that was the only thought I had, was actually these guys have got a lot left. And they could have gone on a lot longer, but it was a very good match. It really was.
Yeah, and Grizz, give us your thoughts.
Completely agree with everything that was kind of said there. It was interesting considering this was the first time that they've ever wrestled, considering they both came up in the UK, obviously kind of different times, but it really made that match kind of feel more special because of it. And yeah, as Jason kind of mentioned, I love the kind of low blow and the way they did it, Pete Dunne, by using Finn Balor's own arm. So technically, you could argue it not being like blatant, essentially, but it was very nice, just in terms of the way that it was just very heelish and kind of dickish, and it almost led to him becoming champion off of it, which was. It had me beaten as well.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, if Pete Dunne's ever going to win the NXT Championship, I'd like to see him win it as a babyface, to be fair. I prefer him as a babyface, but I think he's knocking it out of the park as a heel also. Love his kind of his faction there with only Lorcan and Danny Burch. Then the action didn't end there. Normally you get the little kind of a signature down at the bottom corner, but didn't end there. You obviously had only Lorcan and Danny Burch. They came out to attack Finn Balor in the center of the ring. Pete Dunne got involved. Then the Undisputed Era came out. Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly to fend off the bad guys. And just as they were helping Finn Balor to his feet, Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor were showing each other a lot of respect there. They lined up to do their UE pose, and Adam Cole came in with a super kick to floor the champion, to the surprise of Kyle O'Reilly. And then to finish things off, he super kicked Kyle O'Reilly. So what's going on, guys? I've got to speak to you each about this, because obviously, you know, we knew that something was brewing under the surface. Were they going to include Finn Balor into UE? Adam Cole still obviously has his eye on being an NXT champion, a 3-time champion, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But Matt, I'm going to hand over to you. What's going on here with Adam Cole? And Roderick Strong in particular looked very confused. He looked very perplexed and very kind of torn over this. But Matt, can you break it down for us?
I expected something like it to happen. Maybe not necessarily last night, but at some point. But it was still a surprise when it did happen. It's one of those weird ones that you kind of like waiting for something to happen, and then it does, and it's still a surprise. So, which was pretty cool. So, yeah, I think adding in like super kicking Kyle as well. You know, if it had just super kicked Finn, then maybe they'd had a bit of a conflab between the UE boys. Then, you know, that's one thing. But then following up by super kicking Kyle as well. And like you say, like Roderick Strong looked very confused. He kind of like wanted to go to Kyle, but then also wanted to follow Cole as well. So it's clearly not going to be resolved anytime soon. I think it'd be quite interesting what they do going forwards. Whether like UE just falls apart or whether it gets rebuilt in with a different lineup maybe. Obviously, like Fish still isn't around, so like, he'll come back at some point. So
good point.
Whose side does he take when he comes back? So you know, there's probably more questions than answers, but it was a pretty cool way to end the show.
It was a very cool way, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. Jason, did you see it coming? And what's your thoughts now that it's happened?
I mean, if you watch it, Adam Cole's face does look mean when he comes out. He did look mean, but I'm not sure. I thought they were going to let him join. Actually, that was where I thought. I was like, oh, here we go. This would be quite neat. Yeah, I was thinking of. Is it Pat McAfee? Am I saying his name right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was so unlikable as a heel. It made Adam Cole a face. Where I mean, Adam Cole is a heel, and so I mean, he wants the belt, and he believed in. Well, I mean, they had the prophecy and everything at one point, and so that's still in the background. But I mean, I wasn't sure. But I mean, Roderick Strong wasn't that sympathetic. If I watched my mate get kicked in the face, I might do something. So I kind of stood there and watched. So I mean, but I wasn't sure if you're going to have potentially a triple threat with Kyle O'Reilly, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole for the belt. That would be where I think you'd go next. I don't know if NXT, there probably won't be another event other than the WrestleMania one in between. I wouldn't expect. But yeah, that would be where I'd go next. But yeah, it was very, very good. And it did surprise me, actually. Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. So for anybody watching or listening at home, give us your thoughts and feelings on that main event and Adam Cole and his super kick on Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. But Grizz, I'm going to throw it to you. What did you think of how this show closed down?
I think when you think back in hindsight, you can actually see that this was something that was coming, but it didn't take away from the fact that this shocked the hell out of me at the time it happened. The super kick on Finn Balor's like, yeah, whatever. It's whatever. Adam Cole obviously still wants to go for that belt, and you know he won't let anybody stand in his way to do that. But when he turned around and kicked Kyle O'Reilly in the face, like it was just kind of, well, hold on a second here, what just happened? And I feel like it might just be this kind of thing of jealousy, because it kind of reminds me of the old Evolution back in the 2004 when Orton won the world title and then Triple H turned on him like instantly. It feels like kind of like that, where Kyle O'Reilly's starting to get his stock up in the company. He's had 2 absolute blazing matches with Balor, and they've kind of became not friends, but they respect each other. And a few weeks ago when Balor kind of came in, asked for O'Reilly's help against Birch and Lorcan. So I think it's just this whole thing where Adam Cole is kind of like, he's starting to pull away from here. So you know what? Maybe I'll kick him out before he leaves. No pun intended.
Interesting. It's definitely going to make me want to tune in on Wednesday to find out what happens. But thinking about it now that Adam Cole has kind of recovered his heel tendencies, I'm wondering if he might join forces with Pat McAfee and join McAfee's heel stable, possibly. Who knows? But like I say, he does leave Undisputed Era in tatters now, and obviously you've got Fish on the sidelines. Roderick Strong torn between his friends. Kyle O'Reilly definitely kind of not on the side of Adam Cole, so it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens and what Adam Cole's explanation was. But I think that a lot to do with the NXT gold, the championship gold, and him wanting that back around his waist and setting himself up as a contender for the future. I like the idea of the triple threat though, Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor and Adam Cole for a future show. Most definitely that would be a WrestleMania weekend caliber match for sure. Now, before we kind of close out this live broadcast, I'm going to go around to you one at a time and ask you kind of what your kind of lasting memory of last night's show was, a particular match or a particular highlight, particular spot. Starting with you, Matt.
I kind of want to say the main event, but I'm going to say Gargano against Kushida. I thought that was a phenomenal match, like the technical styling of it and the hard hitting as well. So that's probably my highlight from this takeover.
Yeah, really, really good. Jason?
The women's tag, I'd happily watch that one again. I was really impressed with it because I had no expectations, but again, I thought everyone excelled, and I thought it was really, really good.
And Grizz, besides Shotzi Blackheart coming out in the tank, I'm sure, what was your number 2 highlight?
Probably going to have to echo Matt on that one. I think the North American title match was pretty badass, and just especially the ending of it with the 2 jumping DDTs, one on either side on that ramp, and that ramp got a fair bit of usage throughout this whole show.
It really did. But for me, I think it has to be that dive from Io Shirai off the lighting rig, the lighting gantry, down onto the 2 below. That was a hell of a spot and a hell of a risky move. Unfortunately, all 3 wrestlers were fine after that. But I think we'll all agree that it was a really, really good NXT takeover. And I can't wait for the next one. And I think, like I say, after last night, it's definitely got us intrigued as to what's going to happen with the future. Like I say, all 5 matches were top notch. And all 5 matches had something at stake, whether it was the Dusty Cup tournament championship trophy or a title, and I thought that it was fantastic. We didn't see a title change hands last night, and I really would have liked to have seen Kushida won the North American Championship from that top turnbuckle hoverboard lock. I thought that was phenomenal, but it'd be interesting to see how they handle him and that feud going forward. But before we say goodbye to our guests and ask them for their respective plugs, as mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I have got a really, really fun interview. My next interview on Wrestling with Jonas Live will be this Friday the 19th at 8 p.m. UK and 3 p.m. over on the Eastern United States. But it's with a former Mae Young Classic competitor, former Impact wrestler, former NXT UK competitor. She's also fought in MMA and is now a promoter for her own wrestling company in Germany. None other than the alpha female, Jazzy Gabbert, will be my next guest on Wrestling with Jonas Live this coming Friday. 8 p.m. UK, 9 p.m. over in Germany, 3 p.m. over on the eastern side of the United States. So, guys, pretty big guest there coming up on Wrestling with Jonas. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that one. I met Alpha Female in an NGW show in Hull, and she's like big and scary when she's in the ring and everything. But I was talking to her afterwards, and she's one of the most lovely people that I've ever met in the wrestling business. So, really looking forward to listening to that one on Friday. Yeah,
she's got such a fantastic story from Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but you'll have to tune in on Friday to find out how the interview goes. But a wonderful interview. Jason, Grizz, any thoughts on Jazzy Gabbert?
Yeah, sounds great. I'm just I'm not familiar totally. I saw her on the Mae Young Classic, but I'm not totally familiar with her work. But yeah, excellent. It's fantastic.
There we go. Listen, go on, Grizz, please.
I'm just going to say, just to kind of echo Matt again, I also got to meet her at a PCW show. And yeah, big and scary in the ring, but an absolute sweetheart outside the ring. Also got to see her when she wrestled on TNA in Glasgow. She was on Explosion, doing one of those shows. So got to see her in kind of a whole kind of different bunch of places.
Yeah, but I will be putting out posts to enable the viewers and the listeners and the people want to kind of reach out to Jazzy to say hi and ask Jazzy the questions for her on Friday night. So you'll be getting plenty of reminders as far as when the interview is going out live. But Matt, first of all, before we say goodbye, where can we find out more about you, your podcast? Where can we reach out to you on social media and say hi?
So best thing to do is follow me here at Pull Up a Seat Pod on Twitter, also on Facebook as well. I have to get my hands pointing in the right direction. It's down here somewhere. But check me out there. Follow. I've got 4 interviews out so far, which you can listen to on Spotify, Anchor, or watch them on YouTube as well. Just search for Pull Up a Seat Pod, and you'll find me all over there. Also part of the Turnbuckle Arms, the kind of the original John's spin-off show. So check me out. We'll be there having a brew every now and again. So please follow me, hit me up, speak to me, whatever. Cheers.
Cool. And Jason, if anybody wanted to say hi to you and reach out to you, I know that you're part of the Brood, the Turnbuckle Arms. Where can we say hi to you as well?
Yeah, so Turnbuckle Arms on our page on Facebook. We're also on Twitter as well. Just drop us a line and say hello. I'm always on your page as well, kind of giving my rants and opinions. That'd be where you can catch me.
That's awesome. And Grizz, I know that you're involved in many podcast ventures, including the Turnbuckle Arms, one of the original members of the Brood, of course. But there's another podcast of yours that's recently joined the Johners Podcaster Network. Tell us about it.
It certainly has. It's called the Turning Heel Podcast, where if you love listening to me talk for 4+ hours, then this is the show for you.
Who does? Who doesn't? Sorry, I
think you'd let some of your actual feelings out there.
It's a life-changing event, Grizzly's Turn Heel Podcast.
Every week.
There we go. And bring your lunch. But guys, thank you very much. It's been an absolute blast to recap NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. We'll have to do it all again sometime soon. But from myself, Johners, and from the Brood, we'll catch up with you all again very soon. Our friends over at Powered4 TV are giving listeners to this podcast an incredible 50% off your first month when you sign up to powered4.tv and use the promo code JONNERS. Powered4 TV are one of the leading on-demand streaming services in the UK, with tons of shows from over 20 wrestling promotions from around the UK and the US, including TNT Extreme, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, DNA Pro Wrestling, Full Force Wrestling, Ignite Wrestling, and so many more. There's also plenty more to enjoy, including an incredible archive of classic matches, life layers with William Eva, podcasts, and so much more. Sign up to Powered4 TV today and save 50% off your first month. Just use the promo code